Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Hello everybody and welcome to the AGON by AOC MX-5 Cup powered by VRRC. My name is Jack Oliphant and I'm joined by Dave Marshall. Dave, how the devil are you?
Yeah, doing very well in these windy conditions. Let's just hope we don't have any internet troubles tonight, chat, but I'm sure it'll all be fine.
Yes, fingers crossed. We did have to delay a couple of streams a couple of weeks ago, actually, didn't we, due to storms, but with any luck, we will be fine, as you mentioned. Where it probably isn't that stormy is at Brands Hatch on the sim today, and that's the location of today's event. Of course, round 3, we may have had 2 rounds at Donington, but they only counted for 1 due to some technical issues. So if you're turning up thinking that it should be Vallelunga, well, it's Brands Hatch. We've had to repeat a week. And, well, Dave, that's going to be very exciting indeed. Brands Hatch, a little bit more like Laguna Seca, I'd say, and it's a bit twisty, it's a bit windy, and there's a bit more elevation change.
Yeah, definitely, and you know, it's always the last round on the British touring car calendar for a reason, isn't it? You know, it's always a track that really provides a good mix of the low speed like Druids, and you need, you know, a driver who's very good at agility and, you know, carrying the speed. And then you go into the back section, which is, let's face it, all just about commitment and bravery, but also in these MX-5s really going to give a nice chance for plenty of overtaking opportunities there as well. And also, must point out, majority of the grid are actually taking part in the TCT Championships on Thursday, which is at the same track. So this is the first time both tracks have aligned themselves, so that could actually play really quite a big advantage for them drivers taking part in both, because it basically halves the amount of practice time to learn a track.
Well, exactly. It's only the cars that would differ, and they do differ in a big way. Don't get us wrong, but the fact that obviously it's the same track does help a little bit. And this will also mark, as soon as the checker flag drops on the second race, the halfway stage in the championship as well. Of course, Vallelunga, Red Bull, Ring National and Virginia Full Course will be the latter stages. So we are jetting off abroad to do the extra couple of rounds, which will be really good fun as well. Gold and silver category, and we can go to the gold results from Donington Park Round 2. Well, Jack Smith was utterly dominant. You couldn't really fault him. Pole, race 1 win, and a race 2 second, I want to say. I've actually it's disappeared off the top of my head. Jack McIntyre in 2nd place as well, picking up some good points. Jack Smith as well, by the way, for championship-wise. Very important he got those victories. Eric Axelson came home in 3rd after getting a little bit of fight behind him in the back end of race 2 and carving through the field after an earlier incident. Driver of the round as well was Jack Smith. As I said, you could hardly fault the man. Going into silver, you can see that Brad Smith took home an awful lot of points. Really good job by him. Mick Sutton in 2nd place and Nathan Blank in 3rd. Nathan looking fairly strong as well in practice. I'm interested to see how he gets on here at Brands Hatch. And as I said before, driver of the round was Jack Smith. So, Dave, that is all the top 3s in gold and silver category. We can have a look at how that affects the championship.
We can indeed. So as you can see, McIntyre just about holding on to 1st place there in gold class, but it is Jack Smith who is definitely closing the gap here. Really seems to be to grips with the car, and it was actually Jack Smith taking a double win last time out at Donny. I didn't want to correct you straight away there, Jack, but took 2
By all means,
wins
I forgot.
and polling qualifying as well. So very fast driver. Eric Axelson there in 3rd place. I just don't think we've seen what he's actually got to deliver. Little knocks here and there and excursions off track. Unfortunately, sometimes not due to him, but just being caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. But you can see, still 3rd place on 42 points. So actually, if he can find a little bit of pace, chat, I've actually got my marks down as he could be a real contender closer to the end of the season. Regarding silver class, Brad Smith still with the victory of 55 points over Mick Sutton. I believe that was swapped round at Donington. Brad Smith just getting the upper hand on Mick Sutton there. Nathan Blank 41, but yet another driver who we've seen the raw speed. He just needs to put them dots together out on track and he can really start to close them spaces.
Yeah, cross the T's and dot the I's. That's what some of these drivers need to do, because when it gets to the halfway stage, Dave, you're starting to get an idea of who's solidly in the running. And, well, we can also see what they're in the running for. Here we go, perfectly done. Both gold and silver categories will win these prizes, which is, quite frankly, pretty astonishing in my opinion. 1st place in both will get a set of OBP hydraulic race pedals. These are pretty much the most realistic not just brake pedals, general pedals. These are pretty much the best pedals that you can find for the esports market, and they're absolutely top-notch and sensational. If anybody has ever been on our sim rig truck at various events of BTCC and TCR, you'll have probably experienced them. They're brilliant. 2nd place, the AGON 34-inch curved gaming display. A fantastically clear picture. 144 hertz as well means it's just buttery smooth. 3rd place, 2 VIP tickets with Motus One at any British GT Championship. I think there is a specific GT Championship round that they've got in mind that they'll be inviting you to. But that is, again, a fantastic 3rd prize for both gold and silver categories. So there's 4 VIP tickets to be up for grabs as well, which is really exciting. Right, very quickly before we go into qualifying, we're going to have a look at the MX-5 in action around Brands Hatch.
So here we are across the line for round 3 of the MX-5 Cup powered by VRRC. Turn 1, 4th gear, braking nice and early and getting the car settled, then hard on the throttle down through Paddock Hill Bend, driving it all the way up to Druids. Then down to 2nd gear, making sure we V it off nice and tightly, but then really early on the throttle before the corners even opened up. A lot of time in this car is gained by doing that. Then Graham Hill Bend, 3rd gear, making sure we're not running it too far wide on exit, but yet again, early throttle input, it is the key with this car. into 30s, probably one of the most important corners during a race. This is probably your best opportunity for a nice clean overtake, get good slipstream of the car in front, get good drive out that previous corner, and then set it up nice and early going down towards Hawthorne Bend. You can go inside here. Anyone who's going to try and brave it on the outside of anyone here, it tends not to work. So best thing is just tuck in behind and follow the car through. Westfield Bend taking a lot of the apex there and running it nice and wide. You can see the car gets a little bit unstable there. Down through the Dingle Dell complex, up towards the blind apex and just throwing it in. That is all about muscle memory. Just do it plenty of times and you'll realise where that apex point is. Through Stearns, you can see using a lot of that gradient on the inside of the bend to pull the car through it, and then you're heading towards the last corner, always wondering how much speed to attack it with. Fourth gear, roll it in just over 80 mile an hour, then early throttle pickup, and then towards the line. There's a lap of Brands Hatch. Make sure you tune in at 7:15 on Tuesday night on VRRC's YouTube, and make sure to give this video a like and subscribe.
And we are back in the room, and specifically into qualifying as well. 11.5 minutes to go. The drivers are just about setting their first flying laps. They've had a couple of warm-ups, and in fact, there's Ethan Hill. Now, we focus on Ethan Hill pretty much immediately, so we can sort of get this little bit out the way. Nicky Taylor's car is what Ethan Hill is driving. You may well recognise it as Nicky Taylor's car. Well, Nicky is on holiday, I believe it was, Dave.
Yeah, I believe he's away for 2 weeks, so Ethan has got himself in the wheel of the MX-5 in Nicky's car, as you said, for I believe 2 weeks. I don't know whether he's free next week to do it, but here he is. He will score half points with standing in for Nicky, and even though he classes himself as a silver driver, and so do we, he's actually has to compete in gold class, because that's obviously the class Nicky's in. So could say Ethan's maybe a little bit out of his depth here, but really nice to see him help a mate out and stand in and get him some points when he can't be there. So let's see what Ethan can do, and you know what? I don't think he's going to be as slow as what we think.
Yeah, I was going to say, at the end of the day, for Nicky specifically on the championship standings, it's better to score some points than 0 points, isn't it? And you never know, reverse grids come along every other race, don't they? So it's an opportunity. But if he keeps spinning off around Hawthorns or the exit of Hawthorns like that, then he probably will be thinking that maybe hanging around at the back for the first race at least wouldn't be the end of the world. Get that reverse grid and then really start pushing himself. Nathan Blank. Now, you mentioned earlier, Dave, that you were actually pleasantly surprised with Nathan's pace around here.
Yeah.
He's clearly pushing on strong already. Admittedly, he's third in silver, but we are early in the session. Are you hoping for big things? Yeah,
so Nathan is definitely a driver that, for me, I'm going to be keeping an eye on in silver class. I think he's definitely going to be the one who's pushing the limits of the lap time. But yet again, Mick Sutton, we've seen this quite a few times where Mick Sutton's outright pace at the start of qualifying is absolutely blistering in his category. He just seems to manage to come out the pit and straight away, first lap, just hook up a blistering lap time. I mean, look there, Brad Smith, a very good lap, putting in a 39.1. But it's Mick Sutton's very first flying lap. He's put a P4 on the board. Fantastic starting effort by Mick.
Yeah, a couple more laps before these guys all come in and chop and change their tyres, of course, and that's when you really start seeing the pushed times. There's about 5 minutes to go in this qualifying session, so we're going to take the slight downtime to say good evening to everybody in the YouTube chat. We've had a couple of people, including, the reason why I bring it up, Nicky Taylor. You're on holiday, Nicky. I don't think you've quite got the idea of being on holiday, but good to see you here tuning in to VRRC at least. And obviously Richard Taylor as well, giving a good look to Ethan. Very much hoping that they'll bring back some solid amount of points. Adrian Felvers, good evening to Jack and Dave. Good evening to Adrian. And obviously Elaine and everybody else who's in the YouTube chat as well. Fantastic to have you down. And if you fancy giving a like or a follow or share the stream, then by all means, it would be delightful for you to have a go at. Right, we can now focus a little bit more on the action after we've said our good afternoons and good evenings and whatnot. Jack McIntyre currently topping the timing tower, although Eric Axelson, is looking rather strong as well. A couple of drivers coming into, there we go, Eric is straight back up onto pole position. And as drivers start to come into the pit lane, Dave, this is about the time where we start to see everybody get the new tyres on, they put their bankers in, they're going to get out there and push hard. So we can probably expect the times to be dropping by about a tenth of a second.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised that drivers are pitting that early, if I'm honest. It's not something that I've found really that much time in the MX-5 to be gaining by under fueling by quite a lot to only do 2 or 3 laps. That seemed quite early for them to be pitting in, or for me personally. I would have probably put enough for about 7 or 8 laps in the car and just gone out and just keep going for laps, lap after lap. You know, these aren't running on full sick tyres. They're just a road sports tyre, so they tend to last reasonably well in optimum condition. So Eric Axelson there, 1:38.1. Straight away he's gone out for another lap. He didn't bother coming in the pits, whereas McIntyre and Smith both came in pits. So there's another out lap into qualifying that they're both going to have to wait until they go out for another lap, if you like. So Eric Axelson here, I would say, is actually probably a little bit, for me, in the driving seat at the moment. I did notice he went double purple Sector 1 and Sector 2, and he lost 4 tenths in Sector 3. So for me, Eric hasn't put the lap that he can do out there on the board. Granted, McIntyre and Smith are probably thinking the same thing, but the advantage for me is Axelson has just got that extra bit of track time under his belt of pushing it in this session.
Yeah, I think maybe there's something psychological about it. I mean, I was always a fan of just going out there and doing lap after lap after lap and trying to get into the rhythm of it, because Brands Hatch is difficult.
Yeah.
It's not like, say, Silverstone, where the margins for error are so small, and getting every single half a foot on the entry and that extra inch or 2 on exit and that half a mile an hour down the straight is not so important at tracks, say Silverstone. Whereas at Brands Hatch, it's all about momentum, it's all about rhythm. You mess up one corner, let's say you mess up Hawthorns, which is at the end of this straight, or sort of straight that we're going to come to on Eric Axelson's onboard. If you mess that up, you're pretty much slow for the next 3 corners until the next heavy braking zone in Stirling. So here is Hawthorns, he dips it in, misses the apex by just a touch, runs nicely wide though. He'll probably be able to get away with that one. And as he's, again, hits the brakes, the car dips down, but he runs a touch wide, and that's although it looks pretty small, that momentum, he's lost a mile an hour or 2. And as I mentioned, around Brands Hatch, that's pretty important here, Dave.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? I didn't want to curse because he was on an absolute flyer of a Sector 1. But that Sector 2, he just missed the turning point. You really need to get across nice and early and cut that bit of grass on the inside. As soon as you see a driver running a car width further wide on that corner, exactly like what Jack Smith's done. Fantastic camera work there by Tom O'Farrell, doing exactly what I said, cutting it nice and early across that grass, and you can get super hard on that throttle. Jack Smith is looking like he's on quite a good lap here, a 29.7, which Eric Axelson did at 29.7, Sector 1 as well, then followed by Jack Smith Sector 2 at 27.5, Eric Axelson at 27.45. So I reckon if he can hook up this last sector, he was within half a tenth of Axelson's timing. So what will he do when he crosses the line? Will it be enough for Jack Smith? It isn't. In fact, sorry, it is. Setting the fastest last sector. Sorry, it jumbled up there on my time screen there. Jack Smith with the fastest last sector out of everyone, but actually only just over a tenth ahead of Axelson. So still very, very close at the top for these top 3.
Plenty to play for, and as I mentioned, Dave, it's almost psychological as a driver trying to come back onto the racing line, and almost psychological to come into the pit stop, isn't it? Because you sort of, if you're so used to it, you're so in the groove of doing it in qualifying, that's just your routine then, isn't it?
Yeah.
You almost restart qualifying, and it's like that shift of, that mind change shift, and you just give yourself that extra 10 seconds where you think, okay, I'll put the banker in, and now all I'm going to do is go out there and push. Whereas if you're out there on circuit, to just switch that mindset within, I don't know, about 3 seconds before you hit the next corner is quite difficult to do, isn't it?
Yeah, so for anyone watching this that goes, well, why would the pit anyway?
Sorry, Jack Smith is very, very quick here.
He is. So keep an eye on Jack Smith. He is hooking a lap up here. That looks to me like it will be a sub 38, which is a very, very fast lap time indeed. And I believe it's probably one of the fastest lap times we have seen in the session. But let's hope this, I believe it's Kenny Press. Look at that. Brilliant driving that. Just getting out the way. Probably doesn't need to take quite as much as that grass, but nice respect there, Kenny. Getting nicely out the way for Jack Smith. No distraction whatsoever. Look at that, Jack Smith running all the way to the exit of the road. Not much left there at all. He's going to keep it in the dip as well to get the shortest line possible. And there it is, a 37.999. What a lap, Jack Smith. Fantastic effort there.
Jack McIntyre set a purple sector 3 as well, so the margin isn't as big as Smith maybe once thought it would be. But you have to keep an eye on Eric Axelsson as well, who's gone purple sector 1, although it's just disappeared because Jack McIntyre has gone purple in sector 1. So second and third were applying to the speed of Smith here. We could see 3 times fall below the 138 margin, which would be pretty unprecedented. We didn't even see that in practice, Dave. But I think that's what these guys are lining up. Axelsson just a touchdown during his sector 2, but when I say a touch, I think we're talking about thousandths of a second. McIntyre again, maybe half a tenth down in sector 1, but he's quick. Sorry, it's sector 2, but he's quickest in sector 1 compared to anybody else. So this is about to get very heated. Jack Smith needs to carry on trying to put lap times in. He's gone slow in sector 1 as Smith, as we watch Axelsson now hook up
the corner.
The final corner. It's all flat out from now. Just nail your gear changes and see what happens when the time comes on the board. It's Eric Axelsson goes into second place, and he couldn't be much closer. 100th of a second as we now focus on Jack McIntyre, who's ran a touch wide through Clark Curve. He's going to get his foot down now. Again, nail those gears and see what appears. It's third place for Jack McIntyre still, although they've got a minute to go.
I mean, you couldn't hope for much closer of a top 3, could you? 3 times set rate by less than a tenth of a second. This MX-5 Championship is really proven to be about as close as it can possibly be at the front end of the grid. Let's not take our attention away from the silver class either, though. Brad Smith just ahead of Mick Sutton, ahead of Nathan Blank. Exactly where the championship standings are currently sat. So really, this here is all to play for at the moment. Both championship battles right where they need to be.
Yeah, as we just see Eric Axelsson nail sector 2. It's been his Achilles heel a little bit. His sector 1 is about half a tenth down. His sector 2 has gone purple. Now his sector 3, that is actually, I'd probably argue, has been his Achilles heel more than any other sector. And again, the entry just gets a bit shaky. He doesn't run enough speed through on the exit. That could ruin his lap time here. He could be a tenth and a half down, and as a car parked on the exit there, that won't help his judgment either. But this could be detrimental as Axelsson looking for that extra 100th of a second. Huge, tiny margins, huge consequences if he gets on pole. But he's going to have to go for another run. But I think the checker flag just comes out ahead of Axelsson's time. And that, again, that's third sector. It was a second and a half down pretty much. So, yeah, not the ideal last sector. Although, actually, yeah, no, that was a second and a half down. As Jack McIntyre comes across the line with no improvement on the board. Jack Smith still out there, but doesn't really need to do much about it. Nathan Blank, what can he do to try and upset Brad Smith and Mick Sutton? It's not looking like the quickest time, and it's not going to be the quickest time for Nathan Blank either, as Jack Smith blends into the pits.
Yeah, so fantastic qualifying session there. I think Eric Axelsson was really hoping just to get across that line just before the time was stopped for qualifying to get that extra lap in. But I tell you what, as I said before, couldn't have been much of a closer qualifying session. These drivers are under some serious pressure, so I'm really interested to know how much they're actually watching them timing boards or whether they're just trying to concentrate and hook that lap up.
Paul Laramie is on 2 green sectors on this final flying lap. And we just have a bit of a large margin to gain on Kenny Press, about 0.6 of a second before he's really worrying Kenny Press. In fact, no, it's more like a second actually, not 0.6, but Paul comes in, which I can't quite understand because he was, as I said, on 2 green sectors. So I think that is all she wrote. Carl Felvers and Ethan Hill don't appear to be on any quicker times, but they do have to finish up. So why don't we finish up qualifying, Dave, by speaking to our provisional pole sitter?
We will indeed, so we'll jump straight down to the pits and speak with Jack Smith here. Eric Axelson's actually still going to go across the line here, but the time shouldn't count because obviously qualifying's finished. So Jack Smith, what a stressful qualifying session that was, I was going to say. All the way through, basically separated by a 1/10 of a second between all three drivers.
Yeah, no, yeah, probably the closest quality we've had, and it's the track I thought we would be the most spread out at. So it's,
yeah,
yeah, you know, it's something else really, because this track's really hard to nail. So it's, yeah, mad close really. But yeah, just happy I got like 37 in right at the end.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying that anything sub 38 is absolute blistering pace. We weren't really expecting three drivers to be knocking on the door of that time. I take it this is one of them tracks that, you know, that I would say the first sector is relatively easy to hook up and get consistent. But for me, it's that later part where you really have to have that commitment, and you sort of almost playing with track limits and how far you can push the car. I take it that's the part where, when we go into the race, is that where you might pull the time out the lap a little bit, just to reserve a bit and make sure you're not gonna, you know, dip a wheel on the grass and put yourself in the wall or anything like that.
I'll be honest, Dave, I think it's the first half that I'm a bit less consistent in.
Oh, really?
weirdly, yeah. It's I don't know what it is, but it's just maybe my style or something, how I drive that last sector. But yeah, the first sector is more of a problem for me during race stints for sure. But yeah, I feel like we're pretty good for the race. Just again, I'm gonna use that one again. The starts, it's always the starts. So we'll have to see. We'll see what happens.
Well, we have seen it has been a bit of your Achilles heel, but hopefully you managed to find the bite point this time and get away off the line well. Fantastic quali lap there, Jack. Going to be fantastic racing, and hopefully we'll be speaking to you after race one.
Cheers, guys.
And we'll be catching race one after a short word from one of our sponsors.
At Smart 5, we do things differently. It starts with our 100% buyback guarantee. When you buy Smart 5 token on the Smart Portal and hold it for a year or more, we'll buy back your token at the price you paid for any reason under the sun. You can borrow cash with our collateralized crypto loans or earn up to 13% interest on your holdings. Smart 5 unleashes the true potential of cryptocurrencies, and there are so many reasons now more than ever to get involved. Join us today at smartfi.com. Grow your wealth and secure your future with simple, smart, and safe finance.
And we are back for the first race of the AGON by AOC MX-5 Cup, here powered by VRRC at Brands Hatch. And Dave, Tom O'Farrell, our broadcast, who does an excellent job as always, has just reminded us we've been here before, haven't we? This is a site we've seen in the not too distant past, shall we say, in the academy.
Yeah, that's for definite. You know, the likes of Brad Smith, Mick Sutton, Nathan Blank, Paul Laramie. You know, we've all been here at Brands before, and it was a bit hectic, let's say, in the academy, but there was lots of lessons learned. So let's see whether they can put it all down to practice when it actually matters. A big championship here with real prizes on the line. This is when it matters.
Of course it is, and obviously there are driver of the days to be given out as well, and I believe the prize is an AOC Gaming keyboard. So we always tend to get distracted from driver of the day, but keep your eyes on certain drivers, think who you want to vote for potentially, and we'll try and do the same as we look forward to the next two races. If anybody else is new here for VRRC Racing, then you'll know, then you maybe won't know the format. Well, it's a 2 20-minute races that we've got coming up for you today. Obviously, the first one's dictated by qualifying that we've just seen. The second race is a full reverse grid. We're not messing around with top 10s here at VRRC. We go full reverse grid, really test these drivers to their absolute limit. It always provides a very entertaining watch, and very usually mixes up the grid. But three drivers that won't want to be mixed up too much in race number one, Dave, is Jack Smith, Eric Axelson, and Jack McIntyre. What do you expect?
You know what? I would say my money's on Jack Smith. If it wasn't for the sake of, if I'm honest, he's messed up the start of the races in the past. So
Ooh, he won't thank you for saying that.
He really needs to get them starts nailed, because essentially he's putting down his performance that he's managed to do in such a brilliant qualifying lap. So he's doing the hard work, and then he just needs to get the car off the line. Eric Axelsen, we've also seen struggle. McIntyre is starting a position further back than normal. So I'm going to say Eric Axelsen might back out of T1. McIntyre is going to go the left of Jack Smith, and they're going to go nearly 3x3 turn 1.
Well, let's find out, because the engine notes have risen and the lights are already out as Jack Smith gets a lot of wheel spin. So did Eric Axelsen, actually, to be fair. Brad Smith comes across towards the inside line to try and cover off any other attacks, but Axelsen looks to try and fight around the outside of Paddock Hill Bend, and maybe Jack Smith hasn't got the start he wanted, but I think he's going to come out of Druids with the place that he wants and the place that he started in the end. Jack McIntyre looked to get that cut up the inside of Eric, who gets left on the outside, potentially hung out to dry. No, not quite just yet as they go down to Graham Hill Bend. You don't want to be lunging into there if you can help it on the first lap. It's a long race if you want to do it, as Ethan Hill does get lunged from John Jones in the background. Mick Sutton still in second place in the silver category, although he just overtaken Brad Smith, pole sitter, in the silver category, as there's a little bit of a change towards the back end of that little pack as well, as Carl Felvers gets overtaken by the fast Nathan Blank going towards Hawthorns now for the first time. It's still Jack Smith in the race lead, but for how much longer is Eric Axelsen? Again, looks to the outside. He got the run, but again, very, very difficult to try and go around the outside of a driver there, although there's a few drivers trying to do it. I'm not sure who has just span off. I think it's Nathan Blank, and that's absolutely good, as by the looks of it, joining him is John Jones.
Yeah, we're really hard to see what happened there, but obviously this little tight cluster here, it just appeared that Nathan Blank ended up getting spun or tagged and ended up going stage right there. Unfortunately, once you get on the grass there, there's not a lot you can do about it. Jack Smith here just starting to stretch his legs there. Notice going into that back section though, it was Eric Axelsen in that slipstream really managed to close up and make a real impact on Jack Smith going towards Hawthorne Bend, like you said. And now there's a safety car undoing everything Jack Smith had just fought for in the opening lap. So I tell you what, that to me, I don't know about you here, Jack, Eric Axelsen showed a different side to him than the other races we've seen him in. He seems a bit more attacking and almost a bit more authoritative for what he's doing here, and it's found him still in P2. We've seen him drop back at this stage before, so he's in a good scenario.
Yeah, and to be honest, I sort of came off on Thursday. We covered the TCT, the Touring Car Trophy, don't we, here on VRRC, the official E-Series to the TCT, and I always find myself I don't want to be mean to Eric Axelsen, but I always find myself saying we just want a little bit more bite out of him. We just want a little bit more forward thinking, and maybe he's taking that on board. Maybe that's what he's looking for here. He's forward thinking. He's not worrying too much about McIntyre. He's trying to get ahead of Smith. But as the VSC ends, Jack Smith has actually got a really good start out of Surtees. That was pretty much the perfect place for him to put his foot down, because everybody else had to just hold off on getting their foot planted to the floor because they had to make the turn first. So that's why we're seeing this sort of spread out of races. Jack Smith was the only one that could really get the foot flat to the floor immediately as the safety car ended. And here comes Jack McIntyre to try and take advantage of the fact that Ericsson wasn't quite in prime position.
Yeah, and look at this. Felvers on an absolute mission to try and get back up to P4. Bear in mind, I believe Felvers qualified behind Sutton, Smith, and behind Nathan Blank. So Felvers here on a real charge, and almost, should I say, that we're not going to start giving him his own caption, but doing a bit of a Taylor here. You know, using that racecraft to really pull himself through the grid. It doesn't necessarily matter as much about the lap time if he can get onto the back of the car in front.
Yeah, no, I hadn't noticed Carl, actually. I thought he was a little bit further back. John Jones gets forced off the circuit by Simon Thorpe, getting a little bit hung out to dry on the entry to a corner. Luckily, Nathan then blends back onto the circuit without causing too many problems, but not ideal for his race so far, that's for sure. He was probably hoping for a little bit better. Simon Reed fighting in amongst all the silver drivers at the moment. He is, of course, a gold driver, won't be where he wants to be. He'll probably want to be ahead of Mick Sutton and Brad Smith, who are the drivers immediately in front of him. because he'll want to be getting onto the back of Carl Felvis as he slightly drops away from the front three, which isn't entirely surprising, and it's probably slightly expected that we see Carl Felvis maybe not latching to the back in terms of pure pace. But with McIntyre and Axelson fighting away, Dave, it's something that we could potentially see throughout the rest of this 15-minute period.
Oh, I think without doubt these drivers will definitely be losing time by battling, even though I'm going to say Jack Smith's probably not pulling away as much as I thought he would be with McIntyre and I will get his name right once tonight. Axelson, should I say? I keep trying to call him Ericsson.
I do as well, to be honest.
Yeah, just seems to be actually a lot closer to the back of Jack Smith, particularly this lap, in fact. This is looking definitely like it's turned into a bit of three-way battle. I didn't catch it, but I wonder whether McIntyre actually used the back of Eric's car there and just gave him a little bump down the straight to go, you know what, let's go, let's press ahead and close in on Jack, because he knows if Jack gets up the road, he's gone. And Eric Axelson, here we go, is absolutely all over the back of Jack Smith now. So this here is definitely not all plain sailing. This is the battle we hope for.
Yeah, but again, he was trying to do the hard move, wasn't he, around the outside? And if anything, Smith just gave him half a wheel movement to scare him off.
Off of Druids.
Oh, that is absolutely gutting. And to be fair, in the last lap, I noticed that he had 3 red sectors, which means he'd been off the track every single sector. And by the seams of it, he's pushing that car too hard. And, well, he's come unstuck, unfortunately. John Jones overtaking Nathan Blank, who I assume has a little bit of damage on his car. That won't be, as I said, the best thing for him this evening, but he will get the reverse grid as long as he carries on. Here comes Axelson down towards Hawthorne's then. Smith on the inside, Axelson again trying to do the hard graft around the outside. It's always going to be a touch ambitious, that one, but it's again just holding both of these drivers up in the hope that McIntyre, well, for McIntyre's hope, that holds them up just enough so he can have a little bit of a nibble. Maybe he's not the fastest driver, maybe these two do have a bit more pace, but again, it's about racecraft at the end of the day. This is not qualifying anymore.
Yeah, this battle is, I mean, watching Eric Axelson there go towards Hawthorne, I thought he's not going to go around the outside, is he? And then he kept his nose there and braved it around the outside. I do say in my hot lap videos that anyone who does it going around Hawthorne is very, very brave indeed. Unfortunately, Kenny Press, with a good qualifying session, is unfortunately dropped back. Don't know whether that was a collision just with the environment or whether that was with another car. And here's Brad Smith up the outside of Mick Sutton. Now there's a bit of a squeeze there towards Brad Smith on the entry to T1. And look at that! The speed Simon Reed had round the outside. Is he going to have to look up the inside? Remember, Simon Reed, an academy winning MX-5 driver, now really showing his class ahead of Felvis, and he's still attacking even though he's got that pressure from the car behind.
Yeah, Simon Reed, more like Ryman Speed by the looks of this one, isn't it? He's absolutely flying. Carl Felvis trying to hold on to the back after that earlier incident. Unfortunately, we just think he threw himself off somewhat, but as they go through Surtees, he is still battling for 14th class, which is where he was when he was just behind McIntyre. So obviously he's fighting with Reed, but realistically, if he gets ahead of Reed, he will be in the same place he was when he fell off the track in terms of championship point scoring. So not the worst race in the world for him in amongst this little battle here. Mick Sutton and Brad Smith certainly mixing it with the gold and doing it very well.
Yeah, so what I would say here is, for me, I think Simon Reed is really trying to get past Brad Smith just to put a car between him and Felvis, just to give him a bit of breathing room. Because Felvis, even though he's had an excursion off track, is looking very, very racy indeed. I haven't seen Felvis driving like this in a while. He really looks fired up tonight and looking like he's really meaning business. And for me, I actually think he's going to probably looking like he's going to have a chance on getting all 3 drivers in front here with the way he's driving.
Yeah, well, that would be what he's planning on it. Jack Smith, Eric Axelson, and Jack McIntyre all trading purple sectors in that previous lap. You're wondering who the class of the field is. You could probably pick any one of them, to be honest. Simon Reed gets a little bit nudged out wide, and Felvis is going to be looking up the inside into Druids. Is late on the brakes, and the purple slips up the inside of the blue, but there's a little bit of spin. Great catch by Carl Felvis. He couldn't get the car in front in the end, but the fact that he's still on the circuit, Dave, is a pretty miraculous thing in itself.
Yeah, but it took your drift there round Druids. I mean, regarding car control, you can't deny it, and I do know Kyle Felvers did a fair bit of competitive drifting in his day. So actually, Druids drifting it around that is actually quite typical Kyle Felvers. Simon Thorpe, unfortunately, that's Graham Ilben and Nathan Blank. His day just keeps going from bad to worse there. Unfortunately, that's Graham Ilben. I don't think that was related to Simon Thorpe, but it could well have been. We didn't unfortunately see it, but Simon Thorpe and Nathan Blank both not having the best of days. Kyle Felvers, though, look, keeping that pressure on Simon Reed. But what that is doing, I'm going to say, is Brad Smith is starting to actually pull away here and now start to close the gap on Nick Sutton in front.
You say that Kyle Felvers did competitive drifting back in the... Oh, my days. It's a poor idea. It's a poor move. But Felvers luckily just slammed the brakes on just enough. There was never a room there. There was never an opportunity. You only go up the inside if you're alongside the driver, basically. So it's lucky that Felvers came out of it in the end. McIntyre versus Axelson. Smith has just about pulled away. But to follow on from my point before, you said that Felvers... No, I'll have to do it in a minute because McIntyre's taking up far too much screen time and making this far too dramatic. He slides up the inside of Axelson, and for the first time this race, McIntyre has registered into the P2. It's not for too long because of Graham Hill bend, they do swap back. Going towards Surtees, this is a legitimate overtaking opportunity. If McIntyre finds the door wide open, and he does, Axelson pretty much just leaves it there and gets the late apex. He actually scares McIntyre out of it somewhat. I think McIntyre was probably justified to carry the momentum if there wanted to be contact, but he wanted to see this race through.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's quite a strange racing style for Axelson to sort of use here. He's sort of leaving the door open so McIntyre shows his nose, but then having the trust in the drive behind and the commitment to keep it around the outside and get a better drive on the exit, meaning it's actually making up the space. So at the moment, somehow, Eric is actually putting something that's working very, very well in saying that. Look at the drive McIntyre had there. And look, that's the difference. Even with that much of an overlap on the driver in front, McIntyre didn't even go for that lunge into that second and last bend there, unlike Felvers. So Felvers just needs to use the raw speed that he's got, but just calculate them overtakes a little bit better. So that means he doesn't scrub all that speed off and have to redo all that work again.
Yeah, hopefully Felvers will watch that one back and see that, as you mentioned, if McIntyre's not doing it with that amount of overspeed, he shouldn't be doing it. But to be fair, he didn't in the end. McIntyre up the inside of Druids, though. Axelson trying to carry the momentum, but again, McIntyre sends a bit more speed in this time, but it's still not enough. Axelson comes back at him. It's absolutely fantastic is how he's doing it. And on the entry into Graham Ilben, McIntyre just touches the outside, which maybe ruined his braking zone. Didn't quite get the run into Surtees that he wanted. He's not looking up the inside this time. He doesn't want to have his nose cut off again. He ended up looking like Voldemort if he kept doing that by the end of this race. But it's Jack Smith who's really taking advantage of this.
Yeah, Jack Smith's definitely using this just to help himself pull away a little bit. That's nice to see. Kenny Press back out on track there, starting a real fight with John Jones here. John Jones has backed out of it early, but will maybe get the run through Graham Hill bend. And no, there's Ethan Hill. Unfortunately, with the spin, dropped down to P9. Realistically, though, if we're looking at it, that doesn't actually make any difference regarding his position on points. Ethan Hill still the last place gold driver. Kyle Felvers still remains in front. Meanwhile, up in front here, McIntyre has managed to get past P3 Eric. So McIntyre finally getting the upper hand, but Eric is looking all over the back of McIntyre. Will he get the slipstream here across the start finish line straight? And will we see the different style of Axelson here that we've seen at Brands? A lot more aggressive, looking for lines, really fighting for position. Yes, we are indeed. Round the outside. Is he going to make that work? What a move that is! Round the outside, up towards Druids. If Axelson pulls this off, he is definitely in the running for driver of the day already for me. What a move.
Yeah, he's still there as well. He's just nudging McIntyre out of it. And I think he's just about got the move done. He's forcing McIntyre off the road. That's how you squeeze a driver with respect, to be fair. McIntyre looks at the inside of Surtees, but it's not going to be done. Axelson with that fire. and that racecraft we've been craving for off him for the past 4 or 5 weeks. He's come, he's delivered, and he has announced himself onto this MX-5 championship.
He has indeed, but look at this, McIntyre back in that slipstream yet again, really starting to close that door. This battle, I tell you now, the race and respect between these two drivers, I don't want to give it the commentator's curse, but this for me is one of them battles where you know it's going to be clean, very hard, good, clean racing, and one that is going to go all the way to the finish line.
Yeah, there we go. Commentator's curse provided by Dave Marshall. Because we're just seeing a little bit of a touch there as Axelson holds on to the car. And one thing we didn't note actually going through Paddock Hill Bend, Dave, is the fact that McIntyre had a massive drift on as Axelson made that move around his outside.
Yeah,
and he managed to hold it, and to be fair, he almost held the position in doing so. So yeah, fair play. Some absolutely awesome car control out there, because a lot of people might have been watching the touring car trophy that we do on a Thursday, as we mentioned already, and you see a lot of rear end action in terms of people getting a little bit tagged, and but they managed to straighten it up. That's front wheel drive. Rear wheel drive is a very different kettle of fish. As McIntyre looks at the inside of the Druids, running wide. I think there's a little bit of contact just to make sure that Axelson is scared off it. But Axelson is never scared off it. He'll go around the outside of the entire circuit if you ask him to. And McIntyre is finding this a very, very difficult race to come second in at the moment.
The only thing I can't quite understand is Eric's now Nick Sutton with a spin off Graham Hill Bend. We didn't see what caused that, but obviously that's just coming out Graham Hill Bend, and now that has meant that Simon Reed has gone up to P4, which obviously isn't going to change in the gold class. Kyle Felder's there, look, flashing his lights, going, I need to get past here so I can start to battle Simon Reed. Brad Smith has every right to hold his position though, and in fact, if Kyle Felders is doing a similar lap time to Brad, he can actually use Brad to help him catch up and use that slipstream. Meanwhile, go back to what I was saying, Eric Axelson now, for 3 laps of this race, has gone through Paddock Hill Bend, hit the compression, and McIntyre has managed to get the undercut towards Druids. I'm really surprised Eric hasn't spotted that and starts to move right as soon as turn 1 finishes, so that it forces McIntyre to go round the outside. Obviously, as we've seen, Eric somehow is making the outside line work, but you can understand what I'm saying, Jack. He should just make his job a little bit easier and just go a bit more defensive.
He should just go faster, shouldn't he? He should just be
doing
better. No, I know what you mean. But he's done exactly the same, but that's because of a narrow entry. And there is a touch this time by McIntyre and Axelson. Axelson won't find the room on the outside. That little touch was slightly inevitable, but up the inside into Graham Hill is Eric Axelson, as McIntyre cannot get the cut back. So McIntyre did everything he needed to do into T1, into T2, but in T3 just left the door open at Graham Hill Bend. I don't know if that was a little bit, Dave, because there was a little bit too much contact. Maybe he didn't feel quite right about making the move into Druids, so he left the door maybe slightly open for an opportunity for Axelson. I'm not entirely sure, but Axelson's still very impressive that he's making these lunges, because it's stuff that we haven't seen from him before.
Yeah, I think that is the big thing for me. It's almost a change in his mindset here at the moment. We wouldn't have seen Eric commit to a move as late and as aggressive as that, as McIntyre is looking for an inside line in a very, very fast corner. Indeed, Axelson's going to try and go around the outside of there. That is not a bend where you go around the outside, but somehow he's made it work. McIntyre is going to go right. You want to go around the outside, I'm going to do the same. And now it's heading towards last bend. I don't know whether I watch this, Jack. This is ridiculous.
Clark Curve has Jack McIntyre up the inside, and Axelson, very oddly, doesn't go around the outside. I think that's the first time we've seen him on the racing line for about 5 minutes. He is crawling all over the back of McIntyre, who'll be hoping that he's done everything that he needs to do. But here comes Axelson. Eric is going around the outside again through Paddock Hill Bend. He trusts McIntyre to the end of the earth by the looks of it, and it's absolutely brilliant to see. Up to the outside of Druids as well. McIntyre, he's going to have to defend pretty much for the next minute and 10 seconds. And he knows that, and he's prepared to do it. And I'm sure, hopefully, these two don't make any major contact, but they'll come off with a massive smile on their faces. Axelson crawling all over the back. Smith has driven off into the distance. This will probably be the last lap of the race as we go towards Surtees and up towards the GP loop.
Yeah, I mean, This is, it's Paul Laramie is in the gravel turn 1. What a disaster for Paul Laramie.
Oh, we've gone wide. McIntyre's gone wide out the exit of Surtees, and this could be Axelson's opportunity to go around the outside of Hawthorne's. He's gone around the outside of everywhere else, and he doesn't even need to get to the braking zone before he does it. Eric Axelson already back into second place.
Yeah, I don't know how these drivers are going 2 by 2 round corners that you simply don't do it on. What fantastic driving. And McIntyre's going to do it again. He's going to show his nose up the right-hand side. Axelson's going to keep his nose round the outside. This contact towards the second to last corner. Axelson needs to be late on the brakes. He's still got the racing respect though there. Look, McIntyre up the inside. I mean, unless if Axelson pulls something off here, I think this is McIntyre for the win, I believe. This is going to be a very tricky corner for Axelson to do. Has he got the undercut? He might actually have the undercut here. This is going to be a photo finish.
The checkered flag, Jack Smith has taken the win, but Eric Axelson takes second place ahead of Jack McIntyre. I'm sorry to cut across you there, Dave, but sometimes we have to recognise Jack Smith did take the overall victory. Simon Reed and Carl Feldvers almost equally close across the line to take 4th and 5th, with Brad Smith taking the silver victory. And oh my days, what a race we've just had in front of our eyes, ladies and gentlemen. Brands Hatch, AGON by AOC MX-5 Championship. These things just don't disappoint.
No, I nearly fell off my chair there. For real, I nearly fell off my chair. What a photo finish that was. I tell you what, to keep that together for Axelson on that last corner, I called it on stream. I said that is going to be a tall order to get the win with McIntyre now in front. And the composure he had and when to pick up that throttle to get that undercut, racing respect. What a race that was. Fantastic.
Yeah, those two drivers will have to do something majorly wrong if they're one of those two aren't for driver of the day right now, because that was simply stunning. I'm already saying it now. Those are the two options that the YouTube chat are going to have to be focusing on. Right, okay, everybody is finished, and before we do the interviews, we're going to have a quick advert.
So what a race that was. We'll go straight down to the interviews and we'll go with first in class Brad Smith in the silver. I mean, top of qualifying in your class, but it definitely wasn't that easy when it came down to the actual race itself.
No, I'm going to start calling Nick the rolling roadblock, because he just weren't letting me past. Every time I opened it, got an opening, he'd just close it as soon as I got there. So, but I didn't mean to wipe him out. I thought, I've got to get past him somehow. I see a little gap, went for it, and he tried shutting the door on me. So I'm sure he'll be having words to me after.
Well, I'm sure he will be indeed, but still a fantastic result there, Brad. And yet again, I've got to ask, coming through the grid from that far back, it's not an easy task when the rest of your silver drivers are quite a considerable way up the road.
No, it's not going to be easy, but let's hope you don't give me the commentator's curse this week and I manage to get through cleanly.
Well, hopefully not, Brad. Good luck for race 2.
Cheers, mate.
I'll move forward on our P3 finisher in gold class, Jack Mack. I advise you go back and watch that stream because you hear me nearly fall off a chair and lose my voice all in one. What a race that was between you and Eric. I've never seen drivers go 2 by 2 round some of the corners you just did.
Yeah, I might have to watch it back. I mean, luckily I was there, so I remember most of it. But oh man, that was nuts. Real respect to Eric. That was such a clean race, and there were so many points where we were side by side, and we probably both could have ran each other off reasonably fairly, but we didn't.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what you get as a reward. So yeah, photo finish, a little bit gutted. I knew he was going to go for the cutback, and I actually lifted off going into the braking zone just to try and cover it a little bit. But yeah, just a tiny bit away. But yeah, we'll see race 2.
Fantastic. A really quick point. that reminded me so much. I don't know whether you remember, about 2 years ago, Ash Sutton and Josh Cook, the championship was already done and dusted, and you had the drivers just driving for raw enjoyment, and that battle there was exactly it. You said it yourself, you could have reasonably squeezed them and sort of ended the battle, but it's all about the race, and yeah, fantastic, really good.
Yeah, cheers, mate. That was good fun.
And we'll move forward on our P2 finisher. Eric, the luck hasn't really been with you the past few rounds, but I tell you what a reward. Fantastic race and respect out there, and what a race that was for a P2 finish.
Yeah, thank you. What can I say? It's not many drivers that you can trust like that. That you can go like side by side in a few corners like we did.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that to me is exactly what racing's about, and the enjoyment there looked fantastic. Fantastic effort there, Eric, and brilliant P2 as well. So best of luck going forward into race 2 and see how you do from the reverse grid race.
Thank you very much. It's going to be interesting.
And we'll quickly move on to Jack Smith. I'm sorry the attention wasn't really on you, Jack, but I tell you what, the racing that was going on behind you was absolutely sensational. It seemed to me like you just struggled to get into a little bit of a rhythm early on in that race, which led to Eric being that close to you.
Well, I definitely jinxed myself saying that the second part of the lap was my best, because my wheel after that into the gravel after that safety car restart, and that really that put me back in the fight with Eric. And yeah, Eric really did make me sweat a little bit there, so that was a bit sketchy. But yeah, struggled to get into a rhythm, but once I was there, I was able to have a good view of the battle behind me, which was fun to have a look whilst I was on a straight.
Well, hopefully you can be involved in a battle like that in race 2, Jack. Fantastic win, and best of luck from all the way back on the reverse grid.
Cheers, guys. Should be fun.
And there we go, Jack. Almost lost for words a bit, if I'm honest with you, trying to compose myself. But if this race 2 provides anything like what race 1 did, we are in for an absolute treat here.
Yeah, you've only got 35 seconds to get your breath back, to be honest, Dave, and everybody else there on the stream as well. Fascinating, really. Sometimes, obviously, driver interviews, they can come in and you can sort of guess what they're going to say, but it's always sort of just brilliant to hear from drivers who have been that close to each other. You can tell that they're still recovering.
I love how, like, that battle was probably up there with some of the best battles I've seen. And you go to interview Eric, and it's just like, you know, like a Sunday drive. Like, I've done nothing.
Exactly. Well, let's see if they can repeat such a feat, because we're about to go into the race 2 here for the MX-5 Championship, and the lights are out. And again, a lot of wheel spin off the front 2 rows. Simon Thorpe starts on pole position with John Jones looking to go around the outside into Paddock Hill. Ben, there's contact, and there's a crash already. And I believe one of them is potentially Mick Sutton. And I think that's Eric Axelsson. Oh, no! Eric Axelsson again hit to the side, and that's really good. And I'm not entirely sure who that ended up being. It was Brad Smith and Mick Sutton. So a huge crash in terms of silver and gold championship protagonists. That is massive. John Jones off the circuit as well. Plenty of broken cars. The safety cars come out. Now, I think this is a proper safety car as well, not just a virtual one, which means, Dave, if they can get round to the pits quick enough, we might be able to see a fast repair, and the likes of Eric Axelsson, who was already started at the back of the field, managed to catch up to the end. That's what our fingers are crossed for.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but these cars are fair tough cookies. That looked like a
big
really
hit.
big. That looked like a big collision, but I could be wrong. If Tom can do this, can he see if he can jump on board with Eric Axelsson here to see whether his steering wheel is straight? Let's see. It's quite hard to tell because he's weaving to try and get some
Definitely not
tyres.
straight at the moment.
But I would actually say that, to me, that looks relatively straight, that, Jack. So Eric, for all that, is a big shunt there on the front end. And actually, look, Jack Smith is only one car ahead of him at the moment. I think somehow Axelsson might have just got away with this. It might not be as bad as what it could have been.
I think they're a little bit racy here at the back end. Brad Smith, the safety car is ending, which I think it's already ended, actually. It's just it hadn't disappeared on the stream just yet. And that's why there is a crash between Carl Belvis and, is that Kenny Press and Simon Thorpe? It's not Jack Smith. I was keeping an eye on that before I got too excited. I wanted to double check. but a big crash already, and we hadn't even started the next lap. Nathan Blank is leading the way at the moment as the safety car is recalled out. Virtual
yes,
safety car.
I believe that isn't a false call for a safety car. That I believe is a safety car was called, then it was called in, so the cars all went, and then a result of the crash that we've just seen, there's then a further safety car. So, yeah, what a dramatic start. Ethan Hill, can we point out, is still P2 there with Nathan Blank ahead. So Ethan actually doing a very, very good job here at scoring points crucially for Nicky Taylor. Jack Smith and Jack Mack have found the ways up to P4 and P5 with Axelson still there in P7, just one position behind. So if I'm honest, this at the moment is almost been a complete reset with the goal drivers all the way up the front. And you know what? This has turned into a position where once this racing goes back to being live, this is anyone's guess what these finishing positions are going to be.
I do hope for Nathan Blank's cause anyway that he is able to keep it all nice and clean, and everybody around him keeps it clean as well, because obviously he had such a poor race one due to contact that he is sort of wanting it to be a bit more steady going, as I think the safety car has ended because they're going 3 wide into Hawthorns. Nathan Blank still leads the way, but behind there's even more contact. Oh my days, Eric Axelson does get through them all, but that is, again, that's Mick Sutton, Paul Laramie, Brad Smith, Simon Thorpe in amongst it as well. And is this going to be another safety car? I'm not entirely sure, but we'll have to keep going because Jack Smith goes up the inside of Nathan Blank to take the race lead. Jack McIntyre also goes through Nathan Blank to take second place. By the looks of it, Ethan Hill holding on to fourth is quite impressive from him. Ahead of Simon Reed, Carl Felvers, John Jones, and then Eric Axelson.
Yeah, we don't really know what's going on here. Unfortunately, it just seems like when the safety car's ending, it's getting very, very messy on the restart. And a brilliant battle here up front. Jack Smith and McIntyre both managing to almost leapfrog ahead of Nathan Blank. I believe Nathan and Ethan both backed out that relatively early to let the drivers sort of get through and battle on. Look at this though, McIntyre really quite aggressive there on the way to Druids, really tried to defend his mark, but backed out of it, I believe, there to let Jack Smith back through. He wants to do everything fairly. We've seen in the previous race how fair these drivers do race wheel to wheel, and you know, fair play to Jack there, not wanting to take a position through force. Big respect.
Yeah, Carl Felvers up the inside of Ethan Hill, who has come into a bit of a baptism of fire here, Dave, hasn't he? He's come in, it's Brands Hatch, one of the most difficult circuits in the world. No corner is like any other circuit in the world. You pretty much learn Brands Hatch and it has no other resemblance to any other track you'll ever drive. So he's sort of done quite well realistically. If he can keep this clean from now on, he might come behind Axelson. He might be the last of the gold drivers. But he's learned a lot, and I'm excited to see what he can come up with next time at Vallelunga, and obviously in the TCT where he's covering for Nicky in the Touring Car Trophy as well.
Yeah. So you know what? I think Ethan's doing a very, very good job here to just jump in straight at the deep end. Let's face it, he's not that far off the pace. Now he's in the race pace with Kyle Felvers. You can see he's trying to defend here against Axelson, but the better plan here for him to be is let Axelson go up the inside, tuck in behind him and let him close in on Felvers, and then hopefully sort of follow him through on that move rather than holding him up too much. So Axelson is going to get past him here, and I mean, I'd imagine looking at the pace that he had from the previous race, Axelson won't be too long before he manages to get onto the back of Felvers as well, presuming that he hasn't got too much damage from that extremely heavy collision in lap 1.
Yeah, we never really got the chance to chat about that collision and the damage model here on Assetto Corsa, which is the sim that we use here on VRRC. And Dave, I was curious because on other sims that I'm a bit more familiar with, I won't name them because I know Rich is very much against one of them that I'm going to talk about. But
I don't mind talking about it.
Well, all right, on iRacing then.
Yeah.
You have a little bit of a say MX-5 racing, which is the most commonly used car on iRacing. As soon as you get a little bump at the front and it's, say, let's say 5 mile an hour crash or something, it ruins the aerodynamics on a car that doesn't really have an aerodynamics.
Exactly.
And it completely ruins your run up the straights. You can lose about 15 miles an hour on the straight at Silverstone just because you've had the tiniest little scratch on your front end. What is the damage model like here on these cars on Assetto Corsa? Does that sort of thing happen, or is it more of an alignment issue that you'd be looking for?
Yeah, so on cars that do have significant aero, you know, damage to the front, maybe a little bit less so the rear, damage to the front definitely does hinder considerable straight line speed, as what you would expect. It also, you know, generates a lot of understeer because your split is obviously very damaged. You can be looking, you know, give or take 1.5 to 2 seconds a lap. But realistically, I've had this many times as well on iRacing. If you jump in something like the USF 2000 or something like that, and you get damage to the front end, you can plant your foot out of a 4th gear corner, and where normally it would spin the rear wheels, as we see Nathan Blank. Whoa! Oh, that was very good avoidance there by Ethan there. That could have been almost a race ender there for Ethan, but Ethan spotted it nice and early, turned left to avoid Nathan. Nathan's not had the best of nights, but we've got to look where he's currently sat. Nathan still P1 in silver class, so he's managing to hold on to this at the moment. So, as I was saying before, them USF 2000s, you get damage, you can plant your foot out of a corner in 4th gear, and it usually spin the wheels. My problem with it is, you get front end damage, and you do exactly the same on the corner, it feels like it's lost about 15 horsepower. So, the car isn't doing what it would actually do in real life, because it's just deducting the power out of the car rather than it actually affecting the aero. And there's contact. I believe that was between. Oh, John Jones. Woo! That was very close to the barrier there. Very, very close towards Dingle Dell, and Simon Thorpe getting very sideways with a brilliant tank slammer there. Oh, and Easton Hill in the wall. Hopefully he can get that going again. But looking at the standings, as long as he can finish the race, I know he's losing positions here, but he hasn't actually lost any points regarding the gold class. So Ethan still scoring points for Nicky here in the standings, but it is a tall order. This is a very, very competitive grid, and to just come in and jump in straight at gold class, honestly, that is no mean feat. So well done, Ethan. You know, big respect.
Axel Sun has got past Carl Felvis and is now looking at Simon Reed as well. And by the looks of it, we were discussing the iRacing damage model and the fact that you lose a lot of power as soon as you scrape the front end. By the looks of it on Assetto Corsa, you don't have that at all, because Axel Sun is carving through.
Yeah, so sorry, I didn't explain that very well. So after all that explaining, I'm basically saying the Assetto Corsa model, if it's a car that has very little to next to no aero, like the MX-5s that we're spectating at the moment, there is next to no performance issue down the straight from front and rear end collisions the way it should be. You go into Civic Cup or Fiestas that don't run front splitters or anything like that, you know, you're not going to lose that much performance. You might get a little bit of understeer, but as you pointed out, the main thing is the tracking, which is why I asked Tom to jump on board with Eric. It visibly looked like it was tracking relatively straight regarding his steering, so it doesn't look like his car has been too heavily impacted whatsoever, even though that was an absolutely huge crash at turn 1.
Yeah, it was a big shunt, wasn't it? But Axel Sun has shaken it off and has got himself back up to 3rd position. 9 minutes left. It's a big task to catch up Jack McIntyre, who obviously is a very quick driver in and of itself. In fact, a couple of the people on the YouTube chat saying that they want a new classification just for the front 3. They should be in a platinum standard class. And so I think, I'm just trying to find it now. I think Julie Bradshaw said that Carl Felvis would probably agree that they should be in a platinum class. Then he would probably end up winning the gold class. So, yeah, it's interesting to see. But at the end of the day, these guys are pretty alien at the moment, aren't they, Dave? And they are the class of the field. I don't think anybody can really deny that one. It's just up to the rest of the field, I suppose, to try and put the time in, try and put the practice in, and the experience. And you never know, they'll probably be there one day fighting for those trophies with them.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, it's always hard to classify drivers. But you look, the gold drivers, the likes of Simon Reed and Carl Felvis, yes, they're not quite on the pace of them top 3, but they've still managed to carve their way through the silver grid both races and finished just behind the top 3 gold guys. As I say, them top 3 gold drivers are almost alien status with the laps they are posting in there. They are very, very fast laps indeed, and Simon Reed and Kyle have absolutely every potential that they will get them same lap times. Nicky Taylor, I think, is a prime example. He's about 4/10 off sometimes in qualifying session, but you chuck him in a race and he can all day long keep up with the drivers that are 4/10 up, because he uses that racecraft to his absolute prime. And you'll know exactly what I mean, Jack. He races so much faster than how fast he actually is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about car placement and racecraft when it comes to the actual when the green flag drops, doesn't it? Just having a look at the championship standings after that first race as well, because obviously we want to know how that's sort of broken up a little bit. It was very close at the beginning. It's still very close. Jack McIntyre leads Jack Smith and the rest of the field by 1 point. So 65 points for Jack Mack, 64 for Jack Smith. Eric Axelson is 54, so 11 points behind the leader in the championship at the moment. And by the looks of this race, if it ended right now, McIntyre would probably come level with Smith would probably come level with McIntyre. Maybe they'd swap positions for 1 point. Not sure yet. But we also have to look a little bit further back at Carl Felvers and Simon Reed in the championship. But first, we must focus on how they're getting on in this particular race. Carl Felvers looking to the outside of Simon Reed and carrying good momentum through Hawthorns. Is not going to be so easy going through the flick right there and down in towards Dingle Dell. But still, a good intent there by Carl Felvers and good racing respect for the two of them as well. Maybe not quite as intense as Axelson versus McIntyre in race 1, but equally, they're learning an awful lot. And the fact that they can race this close, Dave, the more they race this close without having any contact, the better they learn.
Yeah, you know what?
As Brad Smith has ended in the wall, and that is huge sway for the championship, because he's leading the Silver Championship by a good 6 points. So Mick Sutton's about to pick up a lot of points here as John Jones and Paul Laramie end up having a little bit of an incident as well. I think Brands Hatch is maybe unsticking a few of these drivers.
Yeah, so that collision appeared to happen not far from after where Brad Smith had crashed. So I wonder whether that was a distraction as they went past Brad Smith, and maybe that's caused them to, you lose the vision on each other there, and that's what's later then caused a bit of a collision there. As you said, Brad Smith is gone from being P1 in class to, I reckon this is going to mean it's really going to close things up between Brad Smith, Mick Sutton and Nathan Blank. So Nathan Blank here, top scorer in silver at the moment with a 4.4 second gap, should I say. So Nathan's going to crawl some really good points here at this round over the likes of Brad Smith. Mick Sutton's tucked in relatively close behind. Meanwhile, here we go, Felvers on Simon Reed. In fact, Simon Reed's already cut in, so Felvers round a corner that in the hot lap video. Oh, in fact, he's run a little bit wide. Simon Reed's now back through on Felvers. That was a nightmare, but Felvers overtaken on a corner that I said in the hot lap video, you are a brave man if you try and do it around the outside of there. But this battle here means really quite a lot. Currently Simon Reed on 29 points, Kyle Felvers on 32. So this is going to take it, I believe, if it finishes the way it is, to the championship between them for 2, possibly 1 point. So very, very close between them drivers indeed.
Yeah, and they're effectively fighting for 4th place in the championship as Laramie goes through on John Jones. Because, of course, Nicky Taylor, who is currently 4th in the championship, is not going to be scoring as many points due to the fact he's not here. And Ethan Hill, unfortunately, is trailing in the gold category. Although Ethan, he has sort of self-confessed he is a silver driver, really, though, Dave. And if you're looking at him in terms of a silver driver, he's actually doing really well.
Yeah, very, very well indeed. And I tell you what, this battle here has got me glued a little bit watching this Felvers and Simon Reed battle. Felvers, I think, has the raw speed to get past Simon. but just lacks a little bit of the consistency to sort of pull it all together and make the move stick. Simon Reed's gonna have to defend the inside here going towards Hawthorne, but he knew Felvers braved it around the outside on the previous lap and made it stick, so Simon Reed's gonna have to be more committed around here. Felvers yet again with the commitment look round the outside. Simon Reed has got the nose in front going towards this next corner. Felvers there, not going to get the cutback there down through this section. I reckon it's going to come down to another lap here, but the corner that I think Simon is a little bit slow out of is this left-hander here. I don't think he quite gets the power down the way Felvers does, and he gets a run out the corner. Yet again, look, Felvers almost just getting a nose past the end of Simon's car, heading towards the last corner, forcing Simon to the inside. Felvers here looking for that cutback move towards turn 1. He's going to be in the slipstream. Will we see a dive on the brakes here, Jack?
Yeah, as a driver coach, you'd probably be looking at the data and the onboard footage and saying that Reed is just angling his car into the entry, into the corner a little bit early, isn't he? And that's forcing him to run just a touch wide, whereas Felvers is really chucking the back end.
Oh, he's got the undercut.
And then sticking the power down, which is exactly how you drive these MX-5s. And up the inside of Druids, it's going to be Carl Felvers. We've seen Axelson hold it around the outside of McIntyre in race number 1. Can Reed do the same? No, he dives back under to Carl Felvers' back bumper and then runs wide as well. And that's pretty much, I think, Dave, that's going to be the end of that battle. I think Carl Felvers will, as long as he keeps it on the circuit, of course, which we have seen him chuck it off slightly, I think that will be Carl Felvers' 4th place.
Yeah, I reckon that looks to me like Simon Reed might have to settle now for 5th place, but we have seen Felvers struggle on this back section with running wide a little bit once he's managed to get past Simon, but hopefully Kyle Felvers will keep it on the straight and narrow, keep it on that black stuff, and just bring home a really solid P4. Meanwhile, oh, there we go, Felvers on that same corner. Same corner, Simon Reed's managed to get back up the inside. Yet again, let's go for another run again, boys, of the same lap.
Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it? I mean, you could argue commentator's curse, but he's done that 2 or 3 times. Unfortunately, as Carl Felvers, we did say if he kept it on the black stuff, he would be all right, but he hasn't. And Carl Felvers is having to do all the work. Yet again, Simon Reed goes through. And I think even Reed would probably admit that he might not have the pace on Felvers, who is certainly driving better than we've seen him drive in 2022, Dave. I think even Carl will probably admit to that one. He's certainly come back on form, and with only 30 seconds left to run, I believe this will be the final lap of the race, because Jack Smith is only just going around Graham Hill Bend, so this will definitely be the final lap of the race. Felvers again going for a slightly different line, and as I was mentioning before, if you just have a look at Simon Reed's sort of car attitude, shall we say, his body language of the car, yeah, it's pointing in just a touch on entry, isn't it? And then he's always having to wash understeer. Oh, that's a little bit more like the optimum line, but he went too deep on the brakes, he went too deep, and Carl Felvers has got a really good run. This could be big news in terms of the championship for these 2 drivers and the end of this race. Carl Felvers, we've seen, he's up for the task of going around the outside through Hawthorns. Will Simon Reed carry a little bit more momentum? Very much on the inside. That will ruin his run through Hawthorns, but Felvers is throwing everything at it. He hasn't steered into Reed, and they do make contact. Felvers going drifting wide. It wasn't his corner. As long as he keeps on the straight and narrow, I think Reed was in every single right there, Dave, to just hold on to that racing line. He did absolutely brilliantly, as Jack Smith has done equally brilliantly, if not more, actually, because not only did he qualify on pole position, he's taken race 1, he's taken race 2, and the 2 rounds that we've just had at Donington and Brands Hatch both belong to Jack Smith. Jack McIntyre drifts around Paddock Hill in celebration for a 2nd place, as Eric Axelson rounds out the podium after a poor contact at the start of the race. Simon Reed, Carl Felvers has disappeared. Simon Reed has come home in 4th, with Nathan Blanks taking home the victory in the silver category, and Carl Felvers in 6th position, fell just below him. Vic Sutton in 7th, with Ethan Hill in 8th, and then Brad Smith will follow up to be in P9 at the end of this 2nd race here at Brands Hatch GP. Wow. Okay, Dave, we need to just take a quick moment to decompress from that one. Again, may not have been as exciting at the front as race 1 and 2, but that Reed versus Felvers well, race-long battle was certainly something to get excited about as John Jones comes across the line and Simon Thorpe will end up coming at the back of the field. Unfortunately, Kenny Press was the driver who ended up having the DNF. Driver of the round then, Dave. Difficult one for me, to be honest, especially as you've already probably bought in 2 of the drivers that are probably up for grabs. I don't know about you. I personally think from the improvement that we've seen in this particular round compared to the other rounds we've seen him in, my vote will be going for Eric Axelsson, purely for that extra bite that he's had in the races this evening. Not only in that race 1, but carving through the field after poor contact at the beginning.
Yeah, for me, the pure class of the race, and in that race 1 alone, the moves he's managing to pull in, to be fair, it was equal race and respect from McIntyre as well, which is why it looked so good. But fantastic drive from Axelsson, and yeah, a deserving driver of the day award for me there, as McIntyre almost perfectly pirouettes there to a nice 180. Very impressive drive.
Absolutely, but we can now go to the interviews for the drivers, obviously starting, Dave, I'm guessing, with Nathan Blank.
Yeah, so we will do indeed. Straight down for our silver class winner, Nathan Blank. Not the race 1 at all, I imagine, that you wanted. Yet again, a turn of a brilliant qualifying pace, but not getting the results in race 1, but managing to back it up there in race 2. Driving within yourself, keeping that gap, and if anything, actually opening the gap a little bit from Mick Sutton behind. Fantastic result there in P1.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Race 2 was very scrappy. I found myself third. Jack Mack and Jack Smith, I went past me, and I seemed to be keeping up with them, and it kind of scared me a bit, and I lost my talent and went off, and all the golds went through. And then I had another incident, so I don't know what was going on at the back. I had another incident where I've taken the grass route, but taking the second race for what it is, getting a win, absolutely over the moon, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely what you need regarding pulling yourself back up into the championship runs in silver class, and it's a good points haul over, crucially, realistically, it's Brad Smith. So Brad Smith, not with the best race 2 that he could have had there, and you've, you know, quite considerably outscored him there, bringing you right back up into championship contention.
Yeah, I mean, that's great news. I wouldn't be surprised if race 1 cancelled that out, if I'm honest. But yeah, like I say, just take race 2 for what it is, and yeah, thank you very much, brilliant.
Well, fantastic news there, Nathan, and good luck going forward in Vallelunga.
Thank you, Dave.
And we'll move forward in our P3 driver in gold class, but also getting our driver of the day award, Eric Axelsson. A fantastic effort here tonight. Unfortunately, the start of race 2 was definitely not what you needed, with an unavoidable contact with cars crashed in front, find yourself in the barrier. I'm going to take it, we jumped on board with you while you were driving around, and it appeared to me that your car wasn't actually too badly damaged from that, I believe.
Well, no, it was okay. I think I set the fastest lap, maybe, in race 2.
Oh, really? Wow.
And yeah, but the start was, yeah, it was a nightmare, as you said, and it's hard to come back from that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's very hard to come back with that, especially with the pace of the drivers in front of you, managing to get through the grid when you were obviously trying to fight your way back through. But fantastic effort getting fastest lap as well there in race 2, regarding the damage as well. And also, as I said before, for your race 1 effort alone, a driver of the day award there goes towards yourself. Yeah, I mean, what can we say about race 1 yet again? Some of, honestly, the best racing. I'm going to say best, some of the best. I'm actually going to say the best sim racing that I think I've ever seen on screen. Absolutely fantastic driving.
Yeah, it's my best race for sure too. And yeah, it was fantastic racing, Jack. And thank you so much for driver of the day.
Well, hopefully we'll see plenty more of that left in the next half of this season, Eric. Fantastic result tonight, and look forward to seeing what you can do next round.
I hope so too. Thank you, Dave.
I'll move forward on our P2 driver, Jack Mack. Yet again, it was a scrappy start, wasn't it? But you managed to get through the grid and bring up another solid podium with them points. But it was Jack Smith who's he just managed to get just the break ahead of you, didn't he?
Yeah, he's just got the pace and just the consistency. So you have to really, like, I've kind of noticed already that the only way I'm going to beat him is just if he makes a mistake, or if it turns out to be like a car on a track that I have a bit of an advantage on. So yeah, he didn't make any mistakes there and just drove off in the distance. So it turned into a qualifying session, that race. But yeah, I'll take second place. I mean, I think that's probably me down into second in the championship. So yeah, just gonna have to work hard in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, going into the second half of the season, the championship is now separated by 2 points. Obviously, you're 2 points now behind Jack. But I mean, realistically, it's almost a championship reset, isn't it? Going into the second half of the season, almost tie on points. You can almost go in with a clean slate and go for it again for another 3 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, it might end up that we get to the very last race of the season and all of the rest will have been pointless because we're equal on points anyway. But
you know what? I think that is the way it's going to be.
But no, I mean, if it does turn out that, then I hope it does, because that'd be exciting. But yeah, it's just going to be about consistency, I think, and the reverse grid races seem to be the key. Like that's what gave me the bit of the boost early on in the season when Jack got unlucky and got involved in some accidents and stuff. So I think it's going to come down to that really, and if we both make it through all the reverse grids all the way, then yeah, it should be close.
Well, we're thoroughly looking forward to it. Well done, Jack, on another great point haul, and look forward to seeing what you can do with Val longer.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
I'll move forward on to Jack Smith. Another victory from a reverse grid. You're making a little bit of a habit from this now, and crucially, now you have the championship lead.
Yeah, no, that was something else. I think me and Jack were both a bit confused from the safety car restart there. So, yeah, that's basically what gave me the edge in that race, and just managed to get myself ahead. And once I was ahead, just make sure he didn't get past again. Yeah, just sort of put my laps down, make sure I was getting off into the distance and not making any mistakes, which luckily we didn't this race. So we're all good there. But yeah, happy to be leading the championship now. So yeah, it's just full steam ahead from now on, really.
I mean, regarding the second half of the season, I've said it's almost a bit like a championship reset with you being almost that close on point. Is it playing on your mind at all that Eric seems to have maybe found a little bit of form now and a bit of that aggression that he was maybe lacking at the start of the season? I think it's fair to say he really seemed to come a little bit on song here tonight.
Yeah, no, that's really good to see, to be fair. It's always better to have more than 2 drivers fighting for this championship. So I mean, if it means we've got freeway battles for the lead towards the end of the season, then I'm all for it, really. So yeah, I'm mainly just looking forward to it when he's with me and Jack, and we're 3 wide through some of these corners, which I think would be quite good.
I was going to say, I think the big thing is, talking about you, see the race and respect that you've all got. You all want the wins so badly, but you're not prepared to run a driver off to get that win. You'd rather just race it fairly and enjoy the racing, and that is what makes it absolutely fantastic to watch. And it's a fantastic effort tonight, Jack. Well done on a P1 finish from a full reverse grid, and really looking forward to seeing what you can bring to the table next round.
Yeah, cheers, Dave. Yeah, really looking forward to it. So
good. Right, we'll speak to you then, Jack.
Cool.
And there we go, Jack. All the drivers done and dusted, and I tell you what, tonight is literally, we've seen both sides of how good and bad a championship can go.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Brands Hatch is a difficult circuit to turn up to and get going on, but I think a lot of the stuff we've seen has been sensational, especially the 2 battles from race 1. Yeah, race 1 was stunning. And then, to be fair, Simon Reed and Carl Felvers kept it very clean. Obviously, it was, you could argue, decided by a little bit of contact, but realistically, the fact that we had that many laps without contact, I think, is a big advantage. And the contact wasn't bad either. It wasn't like one driver initially punted the other one off. So, yeah, it was really good.
I was going to say this when I saw it on screen. Even though there was a slight bit of contact, the thing is, Felvers had been off the corner previous. Exactly. And with the tyre model on a set of Corsa, it will have been considerably slippier for Felvers turning into that right-hander. So even though there was a little bit of contact, the corner speed that Simon would have had over Felvers going through that right, Simon was going to get in front anyway through that section. The only difference would have been then, obviously, Felvers might have been able to have another bite at it a little bit later on in the lap. But as you say, it was very, very minor contact. Simon was obviously trying to leave just enough room, And yeah, for me, it was all fair and square, and a fantastic battle there to finish at the end of race 2.
Yeah, and I'll just go through the YouTube chat in a bit, because obviously we've got to go through the championship, as Tom and Fowler's had it up on the screen for a short while now. Jack Smith leading the way then. He is taking the championship for the first time this season. 79 points ahead of Jack McIntyre on 77. 2 points between the two of them. Eric Axelson, again, it's there. Not quite there. I think what he's done today and the improvement that he's shown today has just meant that he is still in the running. You can't quite wipe him out just yet. Otherwise, it would be just a 2-horse race if he hadn't stepped it up this evening, I fear. For Carl Felvis, he's overtaken Simon Reed only by a point, and both of them have overtaken Nikki Taylor. Ethan Hill has scored 10 points, and I've seen in the YouTube chat, actually, that he said he wants to enter the championship full-time as well, which is brilliant. We'd love to see you more, Ethan. Obviously, you'd probably categorise yourself as a silver driver when you're not scoring points for Nikki Taylor. We don't know how that's worked on the championship just yet, but that'll be sorted out for next week. In the silver category, a little bit of an upset in a couple of these races. It has meant that Brad Smith and Mick Sutton's championship deficit has come down to only 4 points. Brad Smith on 82, Mick Sutton on 78. Nathan Blank has done well to catch up a little bit. He's in third place with 65. Paul Laramie in fourth, with Simon Thorpe in fifth, John Jones in sixth, and Kenny Press, unfortunately, with that DNF in race number 2, is in seventh after a really strong start to this championship for Kenny Press. Hopefully, he comes back even stronger. Right, last couple of things before we say goodnight. A couple of things to look forward to here on VRRC. You can catch the next event, which is live on this channel, which will be the TCT. There we go, round 3 at Brands Hatch GP, back, as Dave said earlier in the stream, at this particular venue. This time in the Touring Car Trophy front-wheel drive. A bit more power, very different to the MX-5 rear-wheel, low-powered. But it will still be fantastic racing. A couple of rear-wheel drivers in the Touring Car Trophy as well from the Maximum Network Championship. We're very excited to see how that gets on, so you can join myself and Andy McEwen, the official Touring Car Trophy commentator, on Thursday night, 7:30. Pretty much the same deal as you had tonight, just with touring cars instead. Next week, we will be seeing, again, the return of the MX-5s, but this time we'll be at Vallelunga. Again, much like we've had today, 2 20-minute races coming on your screens. 7:30 qualifying will start, so make sure you come down and check it out, because it's going to be absolutely awesome in a track that a lot of these drivers won't know anywhere near as well as the likes of Donington, Laguna Seca, and Brands Hatch that we've been to already. So that is certainly one that will separate the platinum from the gold, shall we say, I imagine. And last couple of things, the social side of VRRC. You can see Forza Horizon 5 in the top right-hand of your screen. Club cruises and events are just basically a social aspect where you can show off your craziest mods and have a little bit of fun races and just chat about the fun world that is Forza Horizon 5 in Mexico. Then, of course, you got bottom right, you got Assetto Corsa. That's including what we saw today and the TCT Championship, time attacks and fun races on a Sunday night where we chuck a random track and a random car together and see what happens, essentially. Assetto Corsa Competizione, weekly endurance races, and Dirt Rally 2.0, that's Monday to Sunday, weekly stages. The important thing about that particular championship is, well, it's not really a championship, but there is a sort of standing, shall we say. It's the fact that you can log on and basically post your time any time you like. If you're free at 9 AM on a Tuesday morning, do it then. You don't have to tune in at 7 o'clock on a Thursday evening, for instance. So they're all the things that we've got going on the Virtual Reality Racing Club, and if you want to get involved in any of them, well, then the Discord link is down in the description below this video. We'd love to get you involved, and I'm sure if you join in, somebody will take you through everything you need to know, and you'll be able to guide yourself around the Discord. Right, Dave, it's about that time that we say goodnight, I believe. Last 30 seconds. Vallelunga's next. What do you have in mind? What do we have in store, do you reckon?
You know what? It is such a good track that isn't used that often. It's got an even tighter section than Brands Hatch, and it's fast and flowy out the back section of absolutely fantastic track. And if we see anything like what we've seen tonight, honestly, I cannot wait if we can get a battle like that again. It was exceptional to watch.
Yeah, what I quite like is the fact that already Paul Laramie is in the server posting lap times, so he will be the fastest driver we've had already. Clearly doesn't want to go to bed, does he? Anyway, it's about that time we say goodnight. My name has been Jack Oliphant. I've been joined by Dave Marshall in the virtual commentary box, and a big thank you to everybody who's tuned in liked, subscribed, followed, and silenced, and whatever you wanted to do. It's been a pleasure to be your host for this evening. Tom O'Farrell's been on the broadcast, and we hope you tune in on Thursday for the TCT E-Series. Good night.
Woo!